Welcome to today's installment of a mantra demo. Today's demo is a three-part. So I'll just share with you what I did. One of the things that I'm really enjoying doing is testing something out good before I publish it, before I post it. Anyways, I spent the last 3 hours or so at Lowry Park, or Lowry Nature Park. I can't remember the exact name. It's in right near Victoria, Minnesota, just so you have a general gist. It's great. There's a couple hundred acres or so, and there's several different entrances on each side of a highway, and it's fantastic. So much space to spread out. Anyways, okay, looks like we're pretty clear. There's a trail right behind me, so I'm just trying to be mindful. Anyways, back to the workshop. 3 parts. Okay, let's just start with the mantras, shall we? First mantra, Om Shri Ra Ma. Om Shri Rama. Om Shri Rama. Rama. Om Shri Rama. Okay. So here's just the nutshell of the purpose of why I'm doing it. It is said that there are 2 different main nadis. There's 3 main nadis. There's actually 72,000 in each human body. And that they all course through the body. They're invisible, right? They're veins. I know, sounds kooky, but people believe this for a long time. It's an old tradition. I'm not making it up. So there's 108 in the heart, 72,000 in the body total. And there are 3 main ones that we're concerned with as humans as far as the process of wanting to become enlightened, awakened. So up the spine there's 2 nadis, and then there's 1 all the way down the center of the spine. That is Sushumna, and there's Ida and Pingala, the right and left. One is associated with the sun, one in the moon, and then they merge in the central channel, I think somewhere around here. I'm not 100% sure, you could look it up. They join and then they go into one central channel that goes to the crown chakra, and for lack of a better word, it puts you in a state of samadhi or union if you've done it correctly. I've heard it said by Swami Rama that once you activate Sushumna by actively converging those 2 energies, let's just say one is sun and moon, heat and cold, and then they merge, and then bam, I don't know what happens. I just use bam because it's dramatic, right? But it is dramatic. If you do achieve that, you'll know it. And pretending I know it or pretending that you know it doesn't mean you know it. But I'm convinced that others that have said that they've achieved this, and many individuals throughout history, it's possible. So anyways, Ra and Ma. Ra, fire. Father, masculine. Ma, water, feminine, cool, moon. Okay, so you see Ra, Ma. So interesting enough, Lord Rama, an avatar of Vishnu, Ra and Ma are the 2 syllables that make up the name Rama. And interestingly enough, it's to a male deity, but it has both the masculine and feminine principle in it. It really is the quintessential yin and yang of the mantras. And this is actually something I didn't know for a really long time, and I always knew, oh, Rama, Rama, Rama. So supposedly, one of the esoteric meanings of it, according to my late teacher Sant Keshavadas, is that the heat and cool in your body through those 2 nadis are balanced. Sometimes we can get, and I know modern science doesn't necessarily have an explanation for this, but you can have a problem with too much heat and not have a fever. And you can have a problem with too much cold, either due to a circulation problem, from what I know, and also from the imbalance of one of the nadis, right? And I always found that very interesting, and as I get older and do my own practice, I've noticed that it seems to be relatively true. Sometimes I'll feel this flush of this heat, and I'll take my temperature and I'm just normal. So, obviously I'm not a medical doctor, so, this is just from my own experience, what I perceive, or what I think that I perceive. because I don't really know for sure. So sometimes I feel like, you know what? What if I actively use mantra as a prescription to balance those nadis out? So with that, I came up with, and I'm sure I'm not really making up mantras. Let me just be really clear about this. I'm borrowing from an old tradition, and there are formulas, and I've done so much of it that it sort of is just in there. So there are things I may come out with that is a perfectly orthodox mantra. I just haven't heard it in that combination before, and then the tone that you use. And I'm no expert. I am no great rishi. However, I find benefit from these, and maybe others can find benefit too. Really, the best thing that you can do is experiment with things and have a taste of direct experience, because everything else is just theoretical knowledge, right? We can read it in a book, we can hear it from someone else, but we don't really know until you try it. And even then, our experience is subjective. Rarely are we actually objective, looking at it from the outside, and even that has limits. So the conclusion that I've come to is just do stuff and see what happens. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Until then, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. I consider myself sort of a research and development, a research scientist of yoga and, well, everything. That's just sort of my temperament, even though I don't hold any degrees or have any specific process of scientific experience. I just consider myself, that's how I approach the world. Not with everything all the time, however, often. Forgive me. Keep those mosquitoes off. Okay. It's that time of night, but the lighting's great, so let's do this. Om Shri Rama. Now I chose Om Shri Rama for 45 minutes on the first leg of my nature walk. Not very many people that I run into. So what I'll do is I'll say it out loud. Om Shri Rama. Om Shri Rama. I'll develop a tempo or a melody, and then I'll say that internally in my head so that I'm not disturbing others who might be out and trying to enjoy the peacefulness of nature and all that. So I'll do that in my head with that same tone. It helps me to say it out loud first. There's 3 different ways to do it. One is out loud, Om Shri Rama. The second is almost not being able to hear it, but still using your lips. Om Shri Rama. And the second is lips closed, saying it in here, or maybe in here. I don't know how that actually works. We always say I'm doing it in here, but are we? I guess our brain's firing. Okay, anyways. Om Shri Rama. So for 45 minutes on the first leg of the walk, doing that. Without interruption. Occasionally a thought will come in like, I want to make polenta with sausages, and I want to bread it in hazelnut breading, coconut, and then I want to pour chocolate syrup over the top of it. I have no idea why I had the desire for that food combination. Sounded great in my head. Not really sure the chocolate syrup is really going to work out, but I think the rest of it will work. Anyways, stuff like that will happen, or my knee hurts, or my back is sore, it's tight here, and body stuff, right? Or maybe some kind of problem that you're dealing with will suddenly flash in. You'll think about, oh, how do I need to do this thing with work, and this person is hard to deal with, and oh, I don't, this thing was not pleasant and I didn't like it and had to go through it, or oh, what is my girlfriend or boyfriend doing right now, or husband or wife? Oh, what are my children doing right now? On and on and on. There's like a million things that'll just kind of pop in there when you're trying to do mantra practice. But the great thing about mantra practice is that the idea is you're moving. You're moving. It's like an uninterrupted flow of thought. So instead of stopping and absorbing all of it, you're using that one thing to concentrate on, and you're kind of letting it pass through you, not even forcefully. It's just you're focused, you're concentrated on that one thing. And when you get disrupted by, oh, sausage, then I kind of chuckle to myself usually, because it's usually something sort of silly. And then I'll go back to Om Shri Rama. And sometimes if it's too distracting of a thought, I'll say it out loud again, Om Shri Rama. And then I'll go back to the silent repetition. And that usually works pretty well. And that way you get to sort of, it's possible to get into a state, and I experienced this, where the distractions are a lot less. I can really get deeper into it, and you just continue. So after that, I would sit down for about, use the restroom, drink some water, sit on a bench and do meditation of Om Shri Rama for about 10 minutes total, the whole thing total. So after that 10-minute break, I got up and walked actually this way, literally to this side of the park. Over here, that's where I was. I was way on the other side of the park over there. It's a pretty big park. And now I was going this way. I like to do sort of I call it a full circuit. It's almost an entire loop. That circumambulation, this circling around something, it's a popular concept in yoga and yoga and Hinduism. If you want to learn more about that, Google it. I'm sure you'll find some great information. But just to stay on point, I like to try not to get too distracted as it happens. Ooh, there we go. The sun's going down. I can take my shades off. Sorry for that, but you know, that sun is pretty bright. It's a beautiful time. It's just going over. Oh, it's right on the edge of the horizon. We got about 20 minutes left. And the beautiful sumacs behind me. Nice red foliage. Oh, nature. We're in the chickadee garden. We've been here before. So after Om Shri Rama, I changed to Dum Durgayae Namaha. Dum, bija mantra for Durga, the protective aspect of Lord Shiva's wife, the goddess Durga. She has many names: Parvati, Durga, Uma, on and on. They represent Bhavani. They represent different aspects of the Divine Mother, just like aspects of the Divine Father. There are many different names, different. It's like almost like they have split personalities. You know, they have different personalities. So each human has a different temperament, and the mantras have different effects and put you in different states of consciousness. It's a whole great science. That's another thing that you should Google. I assure you, you'll find an enormous amount of information on it. It is a great science. So, Dum Durgayae Namaha. Dum Durgayae Namaha. Dum, here's the tempo that I chose to use. Dum Durgayae Namaha. Dum Durgayae Namaha. Dum Durgayae Namaha. Dum Durgayae Namaha. So for approximately, these are not exact times, and I was going to try to break down the exact number of repetitions or the approximate number that I chanted. It's quite a lot. I would say if you're too worried about accounting, you've sort of missed the point. I've read that in books where they say, how can I be an accountant with God? It was something along that lines. It was a sage who was realizing that after he'd done mantra with his japa mala, it's like a necklace and a rosary and the bead. You count each bead. Usually there's 108 on it. 108 nadis in the heart. And that is a special number in yoga, in Hinduism. In japa, which is the recitation of these mantras, which are sort of a compact prayer. So, you know, at first I'm praying to Rama, but I'm also using that specific tone to balance the energies of my nadis. And mentally I'm focused on that while I'm doing it, while I'm not thinking about sausage and polenta. And Durga is the protective aspect of the goddess. So I'm channeling that energy. The bija mantra, Dum, which is associated with her. And Durga is fierce protector of her spiritual children. And anytime you're in danger, anytime you're in trouble, to prevent yourself from accidents and from harm from others, this is a great mantra. Dum Durgayae Namaha. So for 45 minutes, that direction of the park, I completed another lap, so to speak. And then I said, okay, how can we finish this off? Something to really balance it out. And so I say, Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, O Ganesha. Please remove the obstacles for all of my mantra practice and for this next mantra to invoke the Guru. I said, what better to balance out Rama the masculine father figure, the sun and the moon, and then Durga, the protective goddess, the Ma Devi, and the guru, a third principle to kind of balance it out. And I'll tell you just after this sort of what the effects are and maybe a little bit more about the meaning of the mantra. Although I should probably just stick to that in the written description. And on we go. Don't want to get too distracted, right? I don't want to distract you from your wonderful practice. Okay, enough fooling around. Enough tomfoolery. The next mantra is very simple. There's a lot of different ways to invoke the guru. I chose Om Guru Om. Here's the melody that I chose. Om Guru Om. Om Guru Om. Om Guru Om. And then of course, after saying it out loud a few times, mentally repeating it. This one I chose to do sitting down. So 2 laps, 45 minutes each, about an hour and a half, plus 10 minutes break in between. And then right after that, right over here actually, in this chickadee garden, I sat on a bench in upright posture, very straight, meditative posture, for lack of a better word, and repeated it mentally for 23 times or so, 20, 30 times. I didn't actually count. I've gotten to a point where I don't always count. I just go more for time limits. And some people will conjecture and say you need to do exactly 1,108, or you need to do 108, or you need to do 10,000, 130 million. I mean, pick your number. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do 130 million in one day, but don't let me stop you. You might see God. If you're that motivated, you might see God. It could happen. I've read stories about this. For example, Samartha Ramadas, who is an old saint of India, southern India, I believe, he repeated the Om Shri Rama Jaya Rama, the Taraka mantra, the 13-syllable mantra. He repeated it a total of 130 million times. He is probably about in his 40s at this point, more or less, and he had a vision of Ramachandra, of God. So God came to him after 130 million repetitions of one mantra. And that's why it's encouraged to go deep with one mantra, to dig a deep well and find that life-giving water. However, we live in the modern age, and I'm sort of a kaleidoscope personality. I like everything. I'm attracted to all the different aspects and variations of God. I have attempted to refine my own practice more, and I have. However, I enjoy sharing it, and there's a different purpose for all these. So do what you feel inclined to do. Don't let me stop you. Don't let anybody stop you, except for yourself, if you want to. So the last one was Om Guru Om. Again, just to recap, masculine energy, the sun and the moon, balancing the 2 nadis that lead to the Sushumna. This is very good for your temperament too. A little bit of pranayama, just to balance the breath. I did that while moving, which is quite fun. And then the Durga mantra for protection, and the Guru mantra to seal the deal. And of course, praying to Ganesha to remove the obstacles. It's said that he is the first of the celestials. So any kind of mantra, any kind of anything, is the sort of how I'm being, the etiquette, let's say the spiritual etiquette of the higher realms. Even though you can't necessarily see the gods, supposedly, there's a way to approach them. And Ganesha being the first of the celestials, it's just polite and necessary, because he removes sort of the block. It's like let's just see him as the metaphysical gatekeeper. So he's like, and then you say, hey, what's up? I appreciate you, thank you. Om Gam Gam is the seed mantra, Ganapataye, the leader of the troops, the Ganas, and there's a lot of esoteric meaning that I won't get into. Namaha, salute, and so, he opens the door. Go ahead, go to Sri Rama. Anyways, this is just an illustration. You're probably not necessarily going to actually meet Ganesha. Color red, Durga, Ganesha, wonderful, right? Hanuman. Red is beautiful. Prosperity in the Chinese culture, good fortune. Yes. It's funny how we see colors a certain way and come up with a mental concept. Now, the conclusion. I would say that in the beginning of the walk, I was a little lethargic, but that has more to do with the recent season change. It's really getting into fall or autumn here. And every time that happens, there's some sort of new weed, like ragweed around here specifically, will really bloom hard, and then I'll have this huge wave of congestion and a new allergy bout before winter, before I get the indoor allergies. And I don't know, I just feel kind of off, kind of funky. So I was having trouble getting going all day. And then I came out here, and part of it is I find that when you're just doing the physical exercise, even if it's not really intense running, even if it's just a good pace, consistent, I find that the endorphins kind of kick off, your energy level, your heat, whatever, it balances out. So maybe you're indoors too much, and your ability to adapt to the temperature changes outside it gets kind of screwed up, for lack of a better word. And whenever the weather changes, you know, it's always dredges stuff up. And of course we have all these viruses and things going around and all this, so who knows in this world what's gonna happen next. Personally, I get a lot of these sinus infections and bad allergy bouts. Happens to me a lot, so I'm usually pretty convinced that that's what it is. But you never know. Always go to the doctor if you're in any kind of concern. I will never tell anybody what to do in that sort of way. Always do what you feel is best. So, I felt energy coming back to me after a while, and that was mostly the Ra and the Ma. Since I was focusing on it, I suddenly felt like my body was acclimating to the outside temperature. I wasn't feeling the effects of it. Like, oh, it's hot out, because it was fairly warm today. Wasn't really feeling that. Even though there was sweat and things happening, even moderate exercise, it wasn't uncomfortable. But in the very beginning, it wasn't uncomfortable. So I noticed that about after 20 to 40 minutes, somewhere in that range is sort of when that happened. And then, of course, as you get more into the walk, you start being less concerned about those minor discomforts. But then the back might happen, or the knee, or whatever, you know. I got all that stuff. That's what happens as you age, unfortunately. Don't let it stop you. Doesn't stop me, even though I grumble and moan. Usually I find that sort of goes away, like my knee. I have an old knee injury, and it was sort of acting up a little bit for maybe there's humidity. I swear it must be the damp. That's the only explanation. Yes, sire. So that usually goes away after a while. Just getting out there. And I was feeling very peaceful. What else was I feeling? Feeling very peaceful. Almost all mantras of God do that for me. And it wasn't always that way. I was really high on it at first. It was really intense and overwhelming, and my mind was so restless at that stage of my life that I just couldn't do it. You know, it was like I wanted to turn it off, turn it away. I'm like, you know, it's a strange thing, but I know there's people out there that understand this. However, as you get deeper and deeper into it over time, that feeling goes away, and it's not unpleasant. So you want to do more of it, really, and this is a good thing. This is a good habit. Your bad habits and your ego were getting in the way of you before, saying like, oh, you shouldn't do this, you know, it's uncomfortable and blah, blah, blah. And, I've had enough of you, ego. You're not in charge of my life, man. Just get out of here, man. Hey, man, we don't need you anymore. No, it's about transformation of the ego, not necessarily killing it, although that metaphor is used a lot, you know. Cutting off the head of ego, eliminating, eradicating, transforming. I like that word better. It's more practical, and there's a better chance of you actually succeeding in that. totally eradicating the ego is not so easy. Trust me. Trust me, I know everything there is to know. Kidding. Kidding. So, let's see. Ra and Ma, Durga, Guru Om. Om Guru Om. I felt once I got to, the Durga mantra. How did I feel during the Durga mantra? So I was already feeling, my temperature felt more balanced, body temperature felt more balanced, or the sensation of what I thought. And then a nice kind of peaceful, blissful feeling. And then as I was about 10 or so minutes into the Durga mantra, I started getting my energy back. And the endorphins were kicking in a little bit too, so that was nice. Mild endorphins, it's not heavy exercise, but balanced, sort of like, see if I can demonstrate it. It's a brisk walk, but it's not a run, right? Consistent. I like that. So, yeah, I started a lot of energy, and I started really kind of getting into a little bit of a trance, which is it's healthy. This is what we're going through. The meditation, it's sort of like you're walking and meditating. So you're so concentrated on that thing for a while that you sort of get into this state of meditation while you're moving, which is great because it's not so easy to do. And then you're paying attention to the leaves on the ground, all the different sounds, the squirrels, the chipmunks, whatever it is moving around. But you're not so focused on it. You're just focused on that mantra. Yet you're aware of all that stuff happening at the same time. You're aware of your environment. At least that's my experience. Now, I find that to be kind of a nice thing. You can't really buy that. You have to achieve it, and it's a really nice experience. So energy, balance of sensation of body temperature, kind of a blissful, concentrated trance feeling, happy, and then peaceful vibration. And that continued, and sometimes I get a little fatigued. I'm like, I've been doing this for a while, this is starting to wear me out. I wasn't really feeling that until almost till the very end of the walk. And then of course, finishing over here on the bench with the Guru mantra, a nice way to sort of seal it in. So after that, I spent about 20 minutes before I came and got the phone for the video, trying to just absorb it and not saying any mantras. I just ended it with Shanti Shanti, peace, 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 Om, Om. So I kind of, it's like you're running and you kind of want to slow down gradually. That's sort of what it's like. It's like you're doing that mantra for a long time, and it's going at a decent pace. And then when you actually wanting to stop is interesting, right? Because your mind wants to keep going. This is very natural, I think. So you Om Shanti Shanti, wearing it down. Maybe I did that a few times, and then I was just trying to soak in, absorb, and see how I felt so that I could make a better video. Because I think that is important. It's like you'll read a prescription for a mantra in a book. They'll say do this and do that and blah 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 blah. This is supposed to create feelings of this and supposed to, yeah, but what would be so much more fun is if we do them and talk about them and really work with them on a not professionally but a scientific level. Sometimes I get a little tricky about using those words. I know people are going to call me on stuff later, but you know what? I'm just going to use it. It's of that kind of mind. Okay? So I personally believe, I felt that it's very dry and stale to just read something and not do it, right? I've done plenty of that. So this is where it's at. This is where it's at. It's about practicing and playing around. And if you find something really good, then stick to it. Great. But how are you going to know if you just read it in a book? You're never going to know. With that, I'll leave you. I think it's been a wonderful day. The sun is about to set. Light that lamp, light that oil lamp in your heart. Keep it on God all the time. Develop the will to want that. And do the appropriate actions, think the right thoughts in order to make it come around. May you have everything you want in life. May you have enough food to eat. May we all be blessed. May we all learn to treat each other better in this strange world with all the unpredictable things that happen. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Namaste, Namaste, Namaskar. Namaste, Namaskar. Namaste, Namaskar.